What is going on, everybody? My name is Kneeckoh and welcome back to another Pokemon Scarlet and Violet Moveset guide video. Today we are talking about a Pokemon that's seeing just a rise in popularity currently in the format, and that is Corviknight. It's something I'm really excited to talk about because Corviknight's one of my favorite Pokemon from last gen, so I'm really excited to see it make a resurgence here in Series 2. But if this is your first time here on the channel, make sure you are subbed for more videos like this in the future. Let's get into it. So Corviknight is a Pokemon that I'm just so excited to talk about because it's just so niche right now. It's got like a 2.24% usage rate on Peakalytics for Series 2 right now. But if you look at OCIC's results, Corviknight actually made it into second place at this event. And I think there's a really good reason because it's like a really niche Pokemon that plays very well into a lot of the Pokemon in the metagame right now. So I want to talk about it quite a bit. So Corviknight is such a fun Pokemon because of the fact that it just is so bulky. It's so bulky, but actually can put out pretty solid damage as well. So this is just kind of a standard set that I have here. 252 HP, 4 attack, 4 defense, 116 special defense, and 132 speed with an impish nature to boost that defense a little bit more. Safety goggles is an item of choice on this Pokemon because then you can avoid Amoonguss issues without having to grass terror, which is very nice. Very solid. And then Brave Bird, Roost, Tailwind, and Body Press. Body Press is great because you can just do big damage to things like Bundle and stuff like that. Just a really solid attack in the meta. You could use Iron Head, but at the same time, Brave Bird will do just like significant damage to things like Flutter as well, instead of having to run Iron Head, and then you have an option for Bundle as well. So I think Body Press is just kind of a little bit better right now, but it's just a really solid Pokemon all around because you can also use Tailwind, and because of its bulk, you can get some roosts off and just kind of wall stuff out. It's just a really good pick. Now, originally, when I started seeing this pop up on Ladder and on Showdown, Fire happened to be the Terra type of choice, but the one that actually won OCIC, well, got second place at OCIC, was Dragon Terra type, which I find very interesting because, you know, you limit a lot of the weaknesses that this Pokemon would have. You then resist things that are strong into this, like Iron Hands and things of that nature, which I think is a really smart pick in terms of Terra typing. You resist Iron Hands, like Wild Charges and things like that. And then you really only have to deal with like opposing Dragon types, which aren't super common in terms of moves. There's like Dragonite and maybe a Salamence here and there, but you're not really seeing a whole lot of issues with that. And then other things like Flutter Mane, but you can deal with Flutter Mane pretty effectively on this Pokemon. And then the other thing that can be a problem for the Dragon Terra typing is Bundle, but because of your bulk and the fact that you're running a Tailwind, you can outspeed Bundle and you're able to body press it and do things like that. So it's honestly like a really interesting Terra typing that I really didn't think about, and I think is really solid. Now, this plays so well into so many Pokemon. I already talked about Flutter, but Flutter really, like, overall doesn't like Corviknight because its typing just ignores most of what Flutter is throwing at it, and because of its bulk, it takes hits very well. Not to mention that if you look at Flutter stats, the defenses are horrible, right? Its defense is horrible, its HP is horrible. Corviknight can go in without a whole lot of attack investment and do some serious damage against a Flutter Mane, which is very big. But then you look at other big popular meta picks right now. Bundle, again, I mentioned Bundle, really is kind of a menace right now, but Corviknight is resistant to ice, and you're able to go in and body press it, and with its special defense you can take a Hydro Pump pretty well, and you're able to go in and body press a Bundle, which is kind of insane in the amount of damage that you can do to a Bundle. So it plays very well into that as well, and with Mirror Armor, if it decides to Icy Wind, it actually lowers the stat of the opposing Pokemon, which I think is really cool. Not to mention that Mirror Armor alone, with Arcanine being as prevalent as it is currently, Mirror Armor is great because you go in and you actually weaken the Arcanine, which could do pretty big damage to a lot of Pokemon. So I think that's a really neat pick as well. Now, Pokemon that are like playing into this are things like Iron Hands, and normally, you know, you think of Iron Hands as being a good counter to this, but again, with the Dragon Terra typing, you now resist the fighting and the electric type attacks, and Iron Hands gets kind of irrelevant for this Pokemon after that. Not to mention that its favorite Terra typing currently is Grass, and you're able to go in and just Brave Bird it and do pretty significant damage to it without really having to worry. So you're basically making its Terra kind of null and void against this Pokemon, and I really like that into this. It's just a sleeper meta pick right now. Now, Pokemon that I think pair well with this, we saw in the tournament that Garchomp was actually played with this, and that makes sense if you consider like Earthquakes and things of that nature. You're able to go in and start EQing pretty often without having to worry. You know, as long as you haven't Terrored, Corviknight doesn't get hit by that. I mean, I think Great Tusk would pair very well with this for the same reason. I still think that Great Tusk pairs better with like Talonflame or something to that effect, because Talonflame gets an immediate tailwind and Great Tusk suffers in the bulk category. So being able to go in and immediately start EQing versus having to wait on Corviknight to kind of get set up is something you do have to consider. But I think these two Pokemon could work well together, especially if you're running like a Protect set on this. And you're able to protect the first turn, wait for your Tailwind to go up, and then go ahead and go in with EQs the next turn. I think that's a really solid option, and it's so much more bulky than something like Talonflame that I think you get a lot of value out of having Corviknight on your team. Now, I keep going back to this Dragon Terra typing because, again, this is a Steel type, and there are a couple Fire types in the format that are kind of annoying to deal with, like Armor Rouge, for example. But again, the Dragon Terra typing, by tearing into Dragon, you resist the Armor Cannons from this Pokemon, and you're simultaneously lowering the defenses when it does Armor Cannon into you. So I think that's a really interesting thing to consider for this particular Pokemon. Another fun thing with this Pokemon, because its Safety Goggles is very good on it, you can kind of just wall a Mungus, which I think is a really, really fun option for this Pokemon, because you can't get Spored because you have the Safety Goggles, and you could just do Brave Birds left, right, and center on this Pokemon, and it just doesn't like it. So I think that forcing a Terra on a Mungus with this Pokemon is something that's very, very valuable right now in the current metagame, because you're seeing Mungus pop up. It's not as prevalent as it was, which is good. I really hate playing against Mungus, but it's good that there are less of it, but you still have to be aware of it. It does make you play differently if you see another Mungus on the opposing side. So having an answer like Corviknight, I mean, like Talonflame does similar things, but Talonflame, again, being as frail as it is in comparison, if you just look at their stats, like Corviknight does essentially the same thing as Talonflame, because Talonflame, you know, it's running Will-O-Wisp and things like that, which are nice. But you have to consider that this is typically running Brave Bird and not a Fire type attack. So you're running like Taunt and things of that nature on this Pokemon. And that could be kind of interesting because you're just very frail, very weak. And after you take damage, your Gale Wings no longer does anything for you. Versus this Pokemon with Mirror Armor, it's a constant. You're able to continue Brave Birding for big damage while also having access to things like Tailwind and Roost to keep this Pokemon on the field longer. I think it's just a very solid option all around. So I do think that currently, with the meta that we have, Corviknight is just kind of a menace. It really is just kind of a menace to society. It just does so much work and pairs so well with other Pokemon that are very popular right now, while simultaneously being a threat to so many Pokemon. It's just a really, really solid pick, and I've honestly been considering trying to figure out a way to get it on a team because it is so freaking good. It's just so fun to use. I used it a lot in Sword and Shield, especially in some of the earlier seasons of Sword and Shield. I had a really good time playing with Corviknight. One of the teams I got to Master Ball with in that game featured one. Just a really, really strong Pokemon. So I definitely am excited to see it spike in use. We do have a couple events coming up. Knoxville's coming up. I believe there's the Bochum Regional is coming up, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a couple events coming up right now, and I'm curious to see if Corviknight does make an appearance in those games. Well, in those tournaments, because I think it's just something that is very prevalent right now. And it's just a very good pick into so much that is popular. But that is going to be it for this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Also, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe for more videos like this in the future. Check out the Discord. People are always hanging out in there, chatting away, playing Pokemon. It's a great time. And if you want to see more from me, check out this video where I used a Go-Goat team on the ladder. Crazy fun team. Honestly, it has like Luminion and Iron Treads. It's wild. It's absolutely wild, but it's a really solid team that you should definitely check out. And also check out this other video where Iron Treads completely goes off on the ladder. Honestly, I have not used that many Iron Treads. Actually, I hadn't used any Iron Treads until this video, so I really enjoy that Pokemon, and I think it's a really fun one to just kind of goof around with on the ladder. But until next time, peace.